All right, let's talk about one of the single most important technologies in all of human history. And it's one that is almost completely invisible to us today. Nope, it's not made of stone or bone, but trust me, it was absolutely essential for building the world we now live in.
So, when I say prehistoric technology, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For pretty much everyone, our minds immediately jump to the hard stuff, right? The durable materials that actually managed to survive all those thousands of years.
Exactly. You're thinking of a stone axe, a bone needle, an arrowhead. We see these incredible artifacts in museums, and yeah, they've basically become the poster children for early human ingenuity. And they are impressive. They're solid, and they tell a powerful story of survival and skill. But, and this is a huge but, what if I told you that focusing only on stone and bone is giving us a totally warped picture of the past? It means we are overlooking the vast majority of what people were actually making, using, and depending on day in and day out. So what is this huge missing piece of the puzzle? Well, the answer is something that usually just vanishes. It doesn't leave a trace. It's something made from the most common material on the planet, plants. We're talking about fiber technology. And this brings us to one of the biggest challenges for anyone who tries to understand the deep past. It's a concept called preservation bias, and it basically creates this enormous blind spot in the archaeological record. It's actually pretty simple. Things made from plants, wood, reeds, grasses, they rot, they decay, they just disappear. But things like stone tools, bone implements, and pottery, they can stick around for literally thousands of years. So our entire view of the past gets skewed toward these hard technologies, while the soft technologies, which were just as essential, have almost completely vanished.
So how on earth do we see into this blind spot? Well, honestly, we have to get lucky. We need to find these incredibly rare archaeological sites where the conditions were just right to preserve these super fragile materials. And one of those amazing places is an ancient village called Beidha.
Right near the famous city of Petra in modern-day Jordan, researchers found something mind-blowing. In the layers of a village from a time before people were even using pottery, they found these beautifully preserved impressions and even tiny fragments of woven mats. This was it, a window into that lost world.
Now, I know what you're thinking. A woven mat? That sounds so simple, but I really want you to try and imagine a world with no plastic, no modern fabrics, not even a metal pot to cook in. In that world, a humble woven mat wasn't simple at all. It was a revolutionary, multi-purpose piece of tech.
I mean, just think about all the things it could do. A single mat could be your floor, keeping you clean and off the damp ground. It could be your bed, making sleep just a little more comfortable. It's your kitchen counter for preparing food. It's your drying rack for preserving that food. And you can wrap things in it and carry them. It was a true prehistoric multi-tool. And the technology that makes all of this possible? It's based on one incredibly powerful and elegant idea: interlacing. This is the core concept behind all weaving everywhere. And the process really breaks down into two key parts. First, you've got the warp. Those are the parallel strands that create a foundation, kind of like a skeleton. Then you have the weft, which is woven across the warp, over and under, locking the whole structure together into one strong, stable object. And you can see just how much skill this took. This wasn't just some simple craft. It was a whole multi-step process. You had to have this deep knowledge of your local environment to even harvest the right plants. Then you needed the patience to dry and soak them properly. And finally, the actual skill to weave them into something durable and useful. But the idea gets even bigger because mats weren't some isolated invention. Oh no, they were part of a much larger and, frankly, incredibly powerful technology package, all based on plant fibers. See, this whole package of fiber technologies fundamentally changed what early human societies could even do. Once you master the basic principles of twisting and weaving fibers, you suddenly unlock the ability to make not just mats, but also string and rope, sturdy baskets, and huge nets. So here's the crucial point. Each piece of this tech package solved a different, critical problem. Cordage lets you build better shelters. Basketry is absolutely essential for harvesting and, more importantly, storing extra food. Matting helps you create organized, more hygienic homes. And netting, that lets you catch food on a massive scale. This whole thing was a revolution. Okay, so while the Beidha mats are ridiculously old, it is absolutely critical that we understand what the phrase oldest known really means in the world of archaeology. It does not mean the very first time a human ever had that brilliant idea. Nope.
It just means the oldest example that we, today, have been lucky enough to find. It's all based on this rare combination of preservation and pure luck of discovery. The real invention of map making was almost certainly much, much, much earlier.
So, after all this, what's the big takeaway? What do these fragile, nearly invisible traces of our deep past really tell us about ourselves?
Well, for one, they show us that early societies were literally engineering their daily lives with an incredibly sophisticated knowledge of the world around them. This wasn't just about scraping by, it was about thriving. It took advanced planning, tons of patience, and skills that were carefully taught and passed down from one generation to the next.
And maybe the most important thing they do is remind us that for every single shiny stone tool we see sitting in a museum, there was likely an entire world of perishable, plant-based technology that made it all possible, a world that has completely and silently vanished into thin air.
And that kind of leaves us with one last big question to think about. What from our own modern world? Maybe our digital data that's stored on fragile servers, or our biodegradable plastics that are literally designed to disappear. What will be the woven mats for future archaeologists? What are the essential technologies that run our lives today, but will leave almost no trace behind?